I'm going to show you the procedure to change your primary mobility master to the secondary and to change your secondary mobility master to primary, and then what you have to do to your mobility controllers or your MDs, whatever you want to call them, what you have to do to repoint them to the correct mobility master, the primary now. So the first thing that you have to do is, let me show you real quick. Here's my primary mobility master. Its IP address is 192.168.128.10, and the secondary is 146.10. So these are layer 3 connected. They're not layer 2 connected. They're layer 3 connected. And if you go in and if I run the command and I do show master layer 3 redundancy, you can see that MM1 is now the primary. If I go into my other one, into my MM2, that role is the secondary. So I have a serial cable going to my MD just to show you, what happens when you save the config, how it's going to reboot. I also have windows up here so we can just see pings and when they reboot and when they drop. So 192.168.150.2 over here is the MD. It's MD1. 128.10 is Mobility Master 1, and this is Mobility Master 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into what is currently the primary, and I have to go in and I have to change config mode to the MD. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make the changes here first, because if I change the roles on the mobility masters first, then the controller, it doesn't know, it won't pull its config from what it thinks is the backup. So just to show you, I'm consoled in on the MD. If I do a show running config, you can see that the controller itself thinks the master is 128.10, which it is right now, and the secondary is 146.10. So if I swap them around first, this isn't going to pull its config from it. So what we have to do is we have to go into what is now the master, go in the change config mode and go to MD1 and go in the config mode. And what I'm going to do is do master IP and now change it to what was secondary. I'm now going to make it primary. So 146.10 is going to be my primary. So you have to put in IPsec and just a key. That's just the key I made up on this test site. So it's going to ask you, do you want to continue? Change requires device reload. So I'm going to say yes. And now I'm going to do secondary master IP and 192.168.128.10, which is now my primary, but it's going to be the secondary. So IPsec and Reboot 123. Okay. So what you have to do is write it to mem, and you have to make sure that you do database synchronize. If you don't synchronize the databases, what will happen is I'll go in and I'll change the command to make this the secondary, and it will tell me that it's going to reboot as soon as you write it to mem. And what will happen is it will write to mem, and the configuration only syncs every 2 hours between these two mobility masters, so it will never sync over to MM2. So then when MM2 comes up, it will not have the settings that we just put for MD1. So make sure that you run a database sync. So I gotta exit out of here, sorry. So now I can do a database synchronize. So it's been initiated. You can do a show database synchronize, but if you just give it a few minutes, it will sync over. And now the changes that I made before are going to be written over here. If you forget to do that step, you're going to kind of get the controllers caught in a little bit of a reboot loop because they're going to be pointing to the wrong master and they won't pull their config. So you'll see over here on MM2, if I try running that command, show database sync, it will complain that it is not the master. So I did show database sync. If you just do database synchronize, it will complain it's not the master. So now the config should be synced. We ran the command, and now I'm going to go in and let's just take a look to see. Yep, you can see that this is rebooting. So it told you as soon as we wrote it to mem, the MD or the controller will start rebooting. If you click on here, you'll see that it's now down. And you'll see that it's killing all the processes here. So this will go down. It takes some time for the controllers to start rebooting. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to what was the primary. Well, it still is right now because we didn't go through the commands to change it. So I'm going to do config t, and then I'm going to do master, and then dash layer 3 redundancy, and then I'm going to do the command L3 sync state, and then I'm going to say that this is now secondary. And it tells you right here, changing the sync state from primary to secondary, the mobility master will reboot upon write mem. So if I just click exit and I do a write mem, you're going to see that this controller, and it's right here, this will start to reboot real soon. So usually by the time if I try exiting out a couple times, this controller is going to be going down right about now. So you'll see. If I hit enter here, yep, connection refused. It's on its way down. So now I go to what was the backup controller, or the secondary controller, and I'm going to make it the primary. So config t, and then I go in and I go master layer 3 redundancy, and then you get under here and you go L3 sync state, and I'm going to now say that this is the primary, and I'm going to hit enter. Now notice this doesn't warn me that it's going to reboot upon a write mem, and it doesn't. So if I click exit, if I write this the mem, it's not going to reboot. But what you have to do is it has to be reloaded, because you'll see if I try making changes on here, it will complain. It will say, hey, you're still the secondary. So let's do reload, and we'll click yes, and you can see my MM1 is down. This MM2 down here will be going down in a couple seconds. You can see up here, this still didn't go down. This takes some time. So it's going down now. It looks like it's shutting down now, but you can still see that it's still responding to ping. So in a couple minutes, these will all reboot. So what I'll do is, so you can see MM2 went down now. MM1's down, MM2, and you can see the controller still did not go down. It will very soon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to wait for everything to come back up. Okay, so it's 5:56. It's 3 minutes since I paused the video. It was 5:53 when I paused it. And let's now go in to the controller. So MD1 is back up. If we look at MM2, it is up, and the mobility master, and the MD1 is connected to it. So everything worked correctly. Just make sure that after you make the changes, that you sync the config before you go in and change the roles of primary and secondary on the mobility masters, and then we should be good.